Hello everybody and welcome back to Expedition Homestead. It is an absolutely beautiful day outside. I love this weather so much, and so do the plants. All of our crops are doing extremely well. They're flourishing and growing exactly as we expected them to. Right now is the time that we want to get into the garden and thin out some of our vegetable seedlings. So that's what today's video is going to be all about. We've got to thin out our carrots and radishes. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then also give you guys a few little tips and tricks along the way. So let's hop into the garden, get real close up to these veggies, and show you exactly how it's done. The first vegetable that we're going to be thinning out today is going to be our beets. Oftentimes you might get an extra seed here or there, or in fact you overseed on purpose so that in case a few of them don't germinate, you have enough vegetables for your family to harvest. What we're going to do is simply cut out the beets that we don't want, that are crowding each other. So I want a beet every 3 to 5 inches. The reason why we're cutting them out instead of just pulling them out is because I don't want to disturb the roots of the beets that we're keeping in the soil. I want to keep them as pristine as possible without any disruption. So by cutting out the smaller ones, the seedlings that we're thinning out, by cutting them, I'm going to stop the growth of that plant, and while doing so, I won't be causing any damage to the roots. Right here is a prime example of what we're looking for when we have to thin this out. We've got one main beet right here, and then there is another one off to the side, real small one, and then a medium-sized one right here. Now if you catch these early enough, you could probably transplant them just fine, but right now we've got enough beets growing and it is a little bit late to transplant. I don't want to damage the roots at all, so I'm just going to go right above the soil and snip that off. And do the same with the other one right here. Just cut them off so there isn't going to be any new growth in there. They should stop producing, and you're not going to disturb the roots whatsoever. Next is going to be our carrots. We've got a couple of different varieties of carrots growing in this bed, alongside with lamb's quarters. If you're not familiar with lamb's quarters, it's in the spinach family, highly nutritious and quite tasty. You can eat it raw. You don't want to eat an absolute ton of it, but most people, to have a salad with lamb's quarters here and there does the body well. Back to the carrots. If you think about the size of your carrots that you're going to be growing, you're going to want your seedlings to be about 1 inch or 2 apart. Obviously with carrots, they're such tiny little seeds, they're hard to sow in at that interval. And like we said with the beets as well, you want to overseed in case some of them don't germinate. And in fact, we had, I would say in total with this entire bed here, we had maybe 10%, 15% that did not sprout and germinate. So overseeding is a good thing, but now we've got to thin them out. Now here's where a cool little trick comes into play with these carrots. We could use the same method that we did with the beets, simply going in and cutting out any carrots that are growing too closely together. But there's one cool little trick that you guys can utilize on your carrots that I think is ultimately a little bit better of an option. Option number 1 would be me going through, cutting off all of the smaller seedlings. And only leaving that one single carrot growing right here in this spot. And then about another inch, inch and a half, 2 inches, we have another carrot growing. And I'll do the same thing for that one. Now we have 2 carrots here. So that's the first thing you could do. Another really cool method is just let them grow in their current clusters. So what's going to happen is that as the carrots grow, they're obviously going to start pushing up against each other. But instead of cutting out all of the carrots right away, except for the single master carrot, we could call it. Hey, you're in the way. Silly goose, silly goose. We will leave all of them growing. And then when they start to become large enough to harvest, that's when we'll actually start to eat them. So if you can imagine growing little baby carrots all throughout your garden bed, that's what we'll be doing. When using this method, we don't want to wait until our carrots are fully grown to harvest them. We want to harvest them as baby carrots essentially, when they're about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in diameter, depending on the cluster that you have. Really what you have to do is just go through your garden, and if you see them start to struggle a little bit, or if they are just grouping too tight together, then you're going to harvest a couple of them off of this cluster. The reason why I think this method is a little bit better of an option is because we don't have any waste. All of our carrots that are currently growing in the garden are going to eventually turn out to be food. And even if you don't eat the smaller carrots, you can always give them to your chickens, your livestock, or use them as compost. In the end, we are utilizing more of the plant matter per seed than we would have before. We are keeping the soil alive by having these plants growing as well. And we all know how important soil is when it comes to vegetable gardening. So that's why I think this option is a little bit better, and I hope you guys try it out. And you don't have to try it on your entire bed. Just do a couple of rows and see what kind of results you get this year. And if you like it, continue doing it next year and the year after that. But if you don't like it, no harm, no foul. You can go the traditional method and just thin out all of the carrots that you don't want to end up at the end of your harvest. All right, that's it for thinning out these veggies. Let me show you everything real quick. Just a quick overview on the veggies that we've got, and a little update on our backyard veggie garden here. We've got 9 raised garden beds back here full of all kinds of different veggies, and a ton of tomatoes and squash over here, and our chickens as well. We cannot forget those. Super excited. They're so much fun as well. So we've got a lot to cover in a quick time. This isn't a garden tour video, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on this video while we're out here filming anyways. So let's take a quick look. So there are the chickens up there. We've got 5 of them. They are happy and healthy. We had a death in the family because of this guy last week, and so I'll tell you guys all about that later. So without going through that entire story right now, I'll just tell you guys the remaining 5 are doing fantastic, and we plan on replacing the one that he took out. It's going to be a work in progress on training him, and it was just unfortunate. What happened was Raleigh got out. We didn't know he was outside. The chickens were out in the yard and not permanently in their chicken run area. Right now they're permanently in their chicken run area, so we're not going to have any issues, but still bothers me a little bit. Still really bothers my son because it was actually his favorite chicken. It was Sonic that Raleigh had killed. So it was really a bummer, but one of the things that we have to go through when having animals is life and death and the entire circle of life. So that was an interesting conversation with him. I think he's getting it. He's understanding the whole process. So it's been a little bit different to give him that experience, but I think he's doing very well with it so far. Over here we have our onions and garlic bed. Fantastic. Strawberries, they're starting to get there. We got a couple of flowers, so I expect them to really shoot off with growth once we start to see some warmer temperatures. Here's our kohlrabi and our peas. Doing very well. Lettuce, a ton of them did not germinate at all. So luckily I've got a backup plan for those. That's going to be a video coming early next week. Cabbage are all doing very well. We've got a few different varieties in there. Radishes have just exploded with growth over the last couple of weeks. Then we've got broccoli, cucumber in the back row, which are kind of off to a little bit of a slow start. But again, warmer temperatures will help out with that. Peppers right here. Our tomatoes are doing good. I think they're doing better in the 5-gallon buckets than they are in these raised garden beds. I did plant these ones a little bit earlier than the ones in the buckets, so maybe it was just a tiny little bit of cold shock. Plus I wasn't able to amend the soil as well in this raised bed than I was in the 5-gallon bucket. So it probably got a little bit better of a dose of fertilizer. In this bed, we have our bush beans right here, all of our pole beans in the back row that are going to be trellised, and then we've got corn and beans right here. Our herb gardens over there are also doing well, nice and healthy, some good growth out of everything. Very excited for our first nasturtium, never grown that before. I love it, super yummy. All kinds of herbs in there. And then, like I was saying, these tomatoes are doing extremely well. They're the ones that I planted in the 5-gallon buckets. So seems to be a great method of growing them so far. And our squash just haven't done a whole lot yet so far. We've got butternut squash over there, and then 4 zucchinis, and a pumpkin right there. So that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having an incredible gardening adventure. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you in the next episode.